So, if you saw on the board, it is the Bigwig issue, which is the play on words, because Bigwig means important people. And a lot of important people have a lot what to say about sheitlach and wigs. But before we do that, we have to know the sources, obviously. We've got to go back to the source to figure out where this all comes from. So the truth is, we know the story in of the Saita, the unfaithful wife.
Wow.
And the pasuk says over there, the kohen shall have the woman stand before Hashem and uncover the woman's hair. Fine. So the famous medrash says, you unfaithful, adulterous woman, you are so keen on uncovering your hair when it wasn't supposed to be uncovered, basically for a strange man. So now we'll uncover it in front of everyone to reveal your ignominy. Fine. But the truth is, the Gemara in Ksubis, the Mishnah says, Eilu yoytz shloi b'ksuba. You all know that a woman, when she gets divorced, she has an insurance policy. Whether Ksuba is deraisa, derabanan, but there's a certain insurance policy that she shouldn't be left empty-handed. But there are some people who have forfeited their rights. And the Mishnah lists the people who forfeit the rights, meaning you divorce the woman and you say, sayonara, I'm not giving you nothing, goodbye, no money. Who are these people? A woman who transgresses Das Moshe and Yehudis, you just send her away without any ksuba. The Gemara says, what's the case of Das Yehudis? Meaning the implication is something called Das Moshe and Das Yehudis. Das Moshe implies a deraisa law, and Das Yehudis implies either a minig or a derabanan type of law. So the Gemara wants to know, what's the case, well the Mishnah says, Ezu Das Yehudis, what's the case of Das Yehudis that you could, even though it's not a deraisa, you could send her out without a ksuba? So the Mishnah says, Yoitza v'roisha perua, she goes out with her hair uncovered. She goes out with her hair uncovered, send her out without a ksuba. Okay? Fact the Gemara. Roisha perua deraisi, what are you talking about? A woman who goes with her hair uncovered? That's not Das Yehudis, the second level. That's a cardinal sin, that's Das Moshe. To go with your hair uncovered is Das Moshe. Where? From this pasuk, somehow or other, we infer that it's a deraisa law for a woman to cover her hair. Because, simply, it says we uncover her hair, seems like usually her hair is covered. So the Gemara comes out, the Tanah Shmuel, Azor leVnei Yisrael shlo yetzu b'pura roish deraisa. It's deraisa. To go on your hair uncovered is deraisa. Fine. So the Gemara says you're right. That's Moshe if she goes out without any cover. But there was sometimes something called a kolsa, which we'll get involved what that is. Some type of semi-covering. If it was a semi-covering, you're okay on the deraisa level. But because of Das Yehudis, they said even some type of semi-covering is no good. We're going to have to see what the semi-covering is. A whole machlokes what the semi-covering is. But that's the Gemara in a nutshell. So, in a nutshell. So basically, does it say it's deraisa you got to cover your hair? Clearly. Now, that's step one. So we're going to discuss different, who has to cover their hair?
Every girl over 3.
Who has to cover their hair? So if you open up a Shulchan Aruch, which I don't have here, but if you open up a Shulchan Aruch, he says something quite astounding. He says, and every girl is not allowed to go out with shukkas head cover, echad pnuyes ve'echad nesuyes, whether you're married or not married. Now, that's a shocker. I mean, it's good for the sheitamachers. They're going to have a lot more customers. All of a sudden, you find out that even if a girl's not married, you have to cover your hair. Now, where's the diak? Where does it come from, the Shulchan Aruch? Pnuyes and nesuas. Well, the answer is, if you look at the Lashon of the Gemara, Tana Beis Shmuel, Azor lebnois Yisrael, Sheloi Yetzi b'Pru Rosh. The Lashon of the Gemara is, Azor to b'nois Yisrael, you're not to go out with your hair uncovered. So seemingly that would apply all b'nois Yisrael. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch says, black and white, right there. Whether you're married or not married, your hair better be covered. No. So all the nice Kalim we're trying to figure out. Pnuyos? So we have the famous Magen Avram. And the Magen Avram paskins, yes, if you're not married, at least the girls have to bunch up their hair to only go on a pony. Which is why you'll find Hasidic girls will never have their hair open. They will never have their hair open, no matter where they go. Because the Magen Avram says, such it says in the Shulchan Aruch, that Pnuyos have to cover his hair, and the Magen Avram has lots of problems. He doesn't understand. He says it must be what the Shulchan Aruch means, some type of modesty. Even Pnuyos have to show. That's the Magen Avram Shita. So don't, when you see these Hasidic girls walking around with their hair bunched, they're not coming from nowhere. Most poskim, the Beis Shmuel, say no. You know what Pnuyos means? It means a married woman who got divorced. It means a married woman who got divorced or a married woman who was a widow. That's what it's referring to. But someone who is just a pnuya does not have to cover hair at all. And this is what the Mishnah Berurah paskins. Okay, so we're good to go. So far, kula. You don't got to go home now and tell your 7-year-old daughter she's got to cover her hair. We're good to go. Okay? Fine. What about a girl who is a pnuya, but she's a balas tshuva, meaning she had a storied past. Basically, she's a ba'ula. So you get this girl, she goes to Neve or Sha'arim. I'm doing tshuva, gevaldik. What's your status? It ain't good. It ain't a good status. I've been around the block. Oh, okay. Do you have to cover your hair? According to most achronim, she has to cover her hair. A bu'ula, even though she's a pnuya, goes under the category. When the Shulchan Aruch says pnuyos, that would mean amana, grusha, and any bu'ula. Okay, this is what most achronim paskin. But the Mishnah Berurah brings down from the Panameiros and Magad Giborim, since it's not 1,000% clear. It's all based on the Yukim. We can't force her. We cannot force her to cover here. So good, another kula. Even though, according to what that machmer, even if the girl is, God forbid, ravished, even if she was raped, they hold you have to cover your hair. Doesn't make a difference. If you're bully, you got to cover your hair. But there is a minority view, and we are soymich on the minority view. And the way the Mishnah brings it down, we're not going to force her. So basically, a girl who becomes about, they should, but no one does. Don't worry about it. No one who's about tshuva, we're going to start telling them they got to cover their hair, even though there's strong sources for that. Okay. Fine. What? No. We'll get to that later. No. You can look at her. If she doesn't have to cover it, you can look at her. That's it. Fine. Now, the Igros Moshe has an interesting shaila. What was the shaila? There was an almana. An almana covered her hair. But for some reason or other, in the office, she had a job in an office. For some inexplicable reason, she could not cover her hair. He doesn't explain the reason why. He doesn't explain it's because of the nature of her work, or because of some type of harassment, or from the some type of office rule. It's not clear why. But that was the situation. She could not cover her hair in the office. So the lady sent the Igros Moshe a question, or Moshe fights the question, what should he do? So the Moshe fight says it's Tully. What is a Tullian? He says it's based on, he gives a heter. He says she could go without her hair covered. And he based on two axioms, two yesod. He said, first of all, we have to have a chakira. What is this din that you can't go with your hair uncovered? What is this din? We said it's definitely deraisa. There's no question that it's a din deraisa that your hair has to be covered. What is this din? Is it a mitzvah essay or an isser essay? Meaning, is the halacha like you're supposed to wear tefillin? What is tefillin? You're supposed to wear tefillin. Of course, it's a bad thing if you don't wear tefillin. It's a bittul essay. No question about that. But it's only a mitzvah essay, right? There's a whole genre of something called the isser essay, which is basically mimics a lav, but it's just a lower level. So someone asks you on the street, what is the din of wearing a wig? Is the mitzvah to cover your hair, or is it it's an avera not to have your hair uncovered? So you say it's the same thing. The answer is the same thing. If you're supposed to cover your hair, obviously your hair shouldn't be uncovered, right? But the question is, where do you put the accentuation? Where do you put the emphasis? Is the emphasis that you should cover your hair? Then it's only a mitzvah essay. Is the emphasis that your hair should not be uncovered? Then it's an isser essay, right? Who cares? Who cares? Well, those of us who are learning in the morning, I'll tell you what the difference is. We know for an essay, how much money do you spend to do an essay? A fifth, but if it's a lav, everything. You got to spend every last penny you have not to have a lav. It's a question of eating a chazer or giving up all your money. You got to give all your money. Isser essay goes under the rubric of a lav. I mean, also in Isser essay, you have to give up all your money, right? Let's say you don't have tefillin. You don't have tefillin. It's an avera not to wear tefillin, though. There's no question about it. It's an avera not to wear tefillin. But it's a little lower level. You don't give up all your money, right? You don't give up all your money. But in Isser essay, you give up all your money. So it's very important for us to decide what is this din of not wearing, of going with your hair uncovered. Is it an essay like tefillin, or is it an Isser essay? So the Moshe Feinstein says it's actually a machlokes in Rashi. Because when Rashi brings down, we said we didn't learn the source that you have to cover your hair. A paras rosh ha'isha. Listen to Rashi. Rashi brings down two pshatim. How do we learn from this pasuk, a paras rosh ha'isha, that you have to cover a regular lady? He's talking about a saita, right? This is the story of a saita. The kohen unveils her hair to embarrass her. We do learn from here that every woman is supposed to cover hair. So Rashi brings down like this. Rashi brings down one pshat. Since we disgrace her, so mida keneged mida, just like she did something wrong by unveiling hair, michlal the aser. From here we infer it's aser, meaning since we are punishing her, why are we punishing her? You unveiled your hair when you weren't supposed to. We want to mida keneged mida. Now we're going to do quid pro quo. We're going to punish you. So Rashi says mechlal the aser. You see that it is aser. Meaning Rashi's understanding, if the understanding is that it's a punishment, we're only going to give you a punishment, such a harsh punishment if you were over on an isser. So according to this pshat, that's lashon mechlal the aser. According to this pshat, it's an isser essay. Inami, Rashi has another pshat. Midichsiva para, since it says you reveal it here, mechal b'hishat tilapruah. If it says we reveal our hair, we can imply from here until now it was covered. Meaning it's only an implication. Since it says unveil our hair, what could we see until now? That it was covered, right? Shema mina ein derech b'nai Yisrael, let's say pruas roish v'chein iker. From here we learn that it's not the way of the Bnei Yisrael to go uncovered. Meaning, according to the first pshat, the Torah says it explicitly. What is he saying? Uncover here. Why uncover here? Tit for tat. We got to punish her. We got to punish her for what we did. What she did. What she do? Rashi says Isser. According to the second pshat, it's an implication. Well, since it says that we uncover her here, we can apply from here. Until now, it was covered. So Moshe Feinstein, what's the difference in the two pshatim? This is the difference in the two pshatim. The first pshat holds it's an Isser essay. The second pshat only holds it's a mitzvah essay. Meaning the first pshat says it's a much higher level, which is called an Isser essay, and the second pshat is a lower level mitzvah essay. So what's the difference? So Moshe Feinstein says like this. Even if we are makbid, that our mana has to cover her hair, he says that's clearly only a das Yehudis. Meaning, even if the Shulchan Aruch says pnuyas have to cover the hair, and pnuyas covering their hair means what? Almana. But that's definitely not the Raisa. He bases it on Yishalmi. That's definitely not the Raisa. So let's go to this woman. Let's talk about this woman. She's about to lose her job, her livelihood. She's got to support her kids. We say, well, you got to uncover your hair. It's the only way. For whatever reason, it's the only way. So what do we say? If it's an Isser essay, tough luck, lose your job. If it's a mitzvah essay, you don't got to give up so much money. So says the Rabbi, since an almana is only d'Rabbanan, we could be makel like Rashi's pshat that's only mitzvah essay. Since it's only a d'Rabbanan, whether a woman has that a mana has to cover her hair, and she's going to lose all her money, and there are two pshat in Rashi, we go to the kula pshat. But says the much if the same question was by a married woman, we would tell her you got to give up your job, starve to death. If it's a married woman, she cannot go to this job. If it's an unmarried woman but an almana, since that's only a das yehud, it's only d'Rabbanan, you can be makel because we could go like this pshat that it's not an Isser essay, it's a mitzvah essay. This is the psak din of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Again, it's not clear what the situation is, just told to put on a wig. But what exactly was the situation? I guess she was a type of lab worker or something. That didn't make a lot of sense, that she had no other option. There was nothing for her to do. Okay. Now, here's the next question. From when is it usher? We said pnuyas. We're not makbel like the Magen Avram. Pnuyas could go with their hair uncovered, no problem. When do they have to start covering the hair? Meaning a kala, right? When do they? So if you notice, different minhagim. Some people put on the wig before the wedding. Some people put on the wig after Cheder Yichud. Some people put on the wig after the first night. So, the Mr. Brewer Proskins, like most Rishonim, most Achrayim, Arusa has to cover her hair. Arusa. That's it. When you're going to go under the chuppah and you're going to have to say Hariyat Mukdesh Shli, that second you're Arusa. You're Arusa. So you have to cover your hair before. Some say chuppah. Nesua has to cover hair. Well, if you hold like that, it could. So the Bnei Ashkenaz who do Cheder Yichud, the Sfaradim usually don't do Yichud. Bnei Ashkenaz after Cheder Yichud, for sure, that's the short called chuppah. It's a whole big brouhaha what chuppah is. But after Cheder Yichud, the short chuppah, so you'll find that a lot of people in the Cheder Yichud put on a wig. When they do the chuppah, they don't wear a wig. And in the Cheder Yichud, they do the wig. But the Americans, based on an obscure, a minority view, brought down the Ber Hativ, the Dov Feinstein said we could say no. It's not Arusa, it's not Nesua, it's only if you're married and you consummated the marriage. Basically, only after the first night. And that's what the Americans, I think my wife wore a wig in the beginning. I think my daughter only after the first day. You read the diary, what should I tell you? It is what it is. It is what it is. But you should know, there's a whole big issue about this. You wouldn't believe how much literature is written just about this issue. Okay? And it's a big chiddush. It's a big chiddush we make. I can't tell you how big a chiddush is. It's a big chiddush. Because we're talking about the Raisa here. It's not the. It's not the people who get married and don't cover their hair until after they go home that night. They're playing with the Raisas because they're not wearing a wig. They're not wearing anything. They're totally covered. It's not so uncovered. It's not so simple. You take off they don't
the hair.
They don't wear the veil the whole time. They dance with the veil. I don't think so. I think it's
theoretically get the veil.
Maybe. Yes, maybe. Okay. So next discussion: where and how much do you have to cover? All right. So in the famous Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer based on the Gemara Brachis, the Gemara Brachis says Sar B'isha Ereshva, and it brings the pasuk in Shir and Shirim, and the pasuk says basically Ba'ad Samatech Sharayich, that your hair is in a net. Basically, the Chassam Sofer says everything has to be covered, everything. and he brings a Zohar, and the Mishnah Berurah brings a Zohar, and we all know the famous Gemara in Yuma that Kimchis was Zeichet to Kahanim, all her sons were Kahanim Gedolim because she never Loira Beisa Karis Beisa Seora, right? Parashas Zohar says shouldn't see any Seir Meisha. It brings sakana to the house, and it causes the children not to be inferior, and it brings the sitra acha. It's very chamor, very chamor about the Chassam Sofer says ad kedei kach. You could, if she doesn't cover here totally, you could divorce her without a ksuba. That's how far the Chassam Sofer goes. Now, don't worry, don't leave yet. We're okay. Don't worry about it. The Igris Moshe brings the Chassam Sofer, and he doesn't know where the Chassam Sofer is coming from, because if you learn the sugis inside, he says that it's clear. We know that there's a concept of you can't do Kriya Shema in front of a tefach megula, in front of a tefach that's revealed of a woman. But that's on the tefach, it's okay. The Igris Moshe, after he comes out with alumnus, he says there's no way the Chassam Sofer is right, and it's okay as long as you have 4 fingers revealed, you're good to go. It cannot be more chamor than any other part of the body. It can't be more chamor than any other part of the body that it's okay if a less than a tefach is revealed. So how much is that? 4 fingers, that's pretty good. No, but the Igris Moshe is not 4 fingers, it's 4 fingers squared. So it comes out only 2 fingers. That's where the famous 2-finger heter goes, right? The 2-finger heter comes from earlier sources, but the Igris Moshe says 2 fingers are mutter because it shouldn't be worse than pachas mitefach, like we find in the Hilchos Kriya Shema, pachas mitefach, there is a heter. All right? So that's number 1. So we can rely on that. He says, of course, it's a good thing to be machmer like Chassam Sofer, no question about that. Where do you have to cover? What about your house? What about your bedroom? Right? What about privacy in your home? What about the shuk? So here again, the Chassam Sofer goes to town, and he says, everywhere. She could be alone in her closet, everywhere. And he's very machmir, and he says that it's a whole machlokes, how to read a Gemara based on a Bach. He's very, very machmir. But here, once again, the Mishnah Berurah says, no, it's good to do a Chassam Sofer, but in your house, you could go uncovered. In the house, the chutzner, uncovered. It's not clear in front of your children. You have older children, boys 17, 18. In principle, it seems that it's okay also. So, and the Igris Moshe writes very emphatically, as long as the woman's a good woman, because there was a man who was very upset that his wife was uncovering her hair in the house. So don't worry about it. As long as the woman's a good woman, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But again, he says it's a good thing to be machmer if you want to be machmer on the Zohar, if you want to be machmer on the Kimchis. But according to strict halacha, based on a toisus openly in ksubis, there's a toisus open in ksubis that says in the house and the chutzner you do not have to wear uncovered.
That's the whole month?
No, we're not talking about that. We ain't going there. Okay? We're just talking about that. Fine. Now.
Didn't we have a why? I heard a lot of people wearing a wig is somewhat of a new thing. I heard about
a new
Bosman's wife never wore covered hair.
Wow. We'll get to this. We'll get to what you're referring to. Now, so what about, okay, great. So we spoke about who, we spoke about where, we spoke about how much, right? What about the Pe'er Nachris, right? The infamous Pe'er Nachris. The truth is, the Gemara talks about Pe'er Nachris. 3 or 4 places it talks about Pe'er Nachris. This was around a long time. It's been around for a long time. And the Shiltei Gebarim, which is a Sephardi Rav from the time of Beis Yosef, says, since you see the Gemara talks about Pe'er Nachris, clearly it's mutter. Meaning, if someone's stopping in the street and say, what would be the problem with Pe'er Nachris? Well, you could say, well, it's like she did nothing. It's like you're over das Moshe, deraisa. It's like, well, Shiltei Gebarim. You would say it's like nothing. Someone would say, no, it's not like nothing. It's not, you're not over das Moshe, but you're over das Yehudis. That much you're over. Some would say, no, it's not that, but at least Mars Ein. At least it's Mar sign because people don't realize you're wearing a wig. And some say it's mutter. The Shulchan Gemara says, listen, if the Gemara says there was pei nachris and they wore it, so clearly it's no problem. Why is it no problem? And he says the Yetzer Hara, somehow or other, our Yetzer Hara intuitively knows what's real here and what's not real here, and not real here somehow or other doesn't cause distraction, doesn't arouse us. That's what the Shulchan Gemara says. No.
Wait a second. Pei nachris is a wig?
Yes, a wig.
Made out of real hair?
The whole machlokes is her hair. No, if it's short. In the good old days, they didn't have synthetic hair. If it's short in the good old days, it was real hair. Only nowadays we have synthetic hair. So the whole question is, what about her own hair? Her own hair, she cuts off, glues to some type of cover, puts it on. It doesn't make a difference. Shulchan Gemara says it's mutter. Now it seems that the Kav Chaim and the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, Pri Megadim all say it's okay. Now,
Were they as good as today?
That's we'll get to that. The first one, the earliest one is the Tshuva Be'er Sheva. It was an early Achron, and he goes to town. He says two things. He says basically, yes, it is true the Gemara talks about pei nachris. It's very true. But you have no idea what that thing is. You think it's what we call a modern sheitel today. That's not what it was. What it was is there were women who were bald, and for whatever reason, and since they were bald, they didn't just want to wear a tichel because it would look funny. So they would stuff under the tichel some type of mop of hair so that they should look as if they had hair. But God forbid, can we say that you could go with the pei nachris just totally revealed? That would be just like either Mar Zayin or be Das Yehudis, whatever we said it. He says, where's one of the places that talks about pei nachris? It's not a foolproof, but it sort of lends credence to his interpretation. The Gemara talks about a woman wants to be a nazir. No. The Gemara says, Rameir says you could be mefer. You could annul her naziris. Why? Why can you annul her naziris? Because part of the process is you shave off her hair, and the husband may not be too happy about that. And we know that the husband has the power to annul vows that disturb him. So Rameir says a woman says she's a nazir, the husband could mefer the nazir, mefer, no problem. Rabbanan say, what's the big deal? She can wear a pei nachris. She can wear a wig. But what do you see from that story? That we're talking about a bald woman. We're talking about a bald woman who needs a pei nachris to make believe that she has hair. Again, it's not a full proof, but it's just showing that the purpose of pei nachris could have been just for women who don't have hair. So basically, I can start listing here hundreds of rabbis who all say, and they go adamantly against Shulchan Gemara. They say that's one way to get out of the problem. They say pei nachris was, like I said, it was under a cover. Another way to get out of the problem is so what? It says pei nachris. Maybe we're talking about in your house. We said in your house you're allowed to go totally uncovered. And maybe even the Chassam Sofer and the Bach, and even though the whole Machmir hold that in the house you can have less of a cover. We didn't get involved in that. But maybe this is that the Gemara talks about pei nachris is in our house. But where do you see from the Gemara that you're allowed to go in the middle of Times Square with the pei nachris? So this is a fierce battle in the Achronim, how to read these Gemaras. I just gave you a little bit of background. But we should know it does say pei nachris it does talk about pei nachris in the Gemara. The Igros Moshe, who's been on our side so far, we're all rooting for the Igros Moshe. It's been good so far with him, right? He brings a story. There was a man who didn't want his wife to wear a wig. Didn't want his wife to wear a wig. So the Igros Moshe first goes through a whole entire issue about minhagim, which we can't do now, but you should know a big issue about pei nachris is what the minig is, what the custom is. It's not like minig is not like big deal. No, it's a big thing in halacha. No, he didn't. She wanted to wear a wig. he didn't want her to wear a wig. But yeah, of course. We can't get involved in that, but minig plays a big role in all this conversation. But basically, says the Igros Moshe that people are machmir about wigs. He doesn't know what they're talking about. He doesn't care. He has no right to tell her not to wear a wig. If she wants to wear her wig, and he says even if the meaning of his family is that everyone in his family did not wear wigs, it's none of his business. And if she wants to wear a wig, you cannot stop her from wearing a wig. And then he said about Maris Ayin. You're worried about Maris Ayin? He said, I happen to know who you are. I happen to know you shave. Tell me something. How do you shave? Oh, you use a shaver. You don't use a razor. But isn't it Maris Ayin? So don't be so frum. Just like you go ahead and shave and you're not worried about Maris Ayin, don't be so frum about your wife. Right? This is what he says. Look, I don't want to get involved, but this is it's big kiddish the way he writes it. He doesn't know where the whole Isser is coming from. I could literally bring you over 100 people say it's us, a big rabbis. He says he doesn't know what they're talking about. Pay Nachris is mutter, and it's none of your business. I don't know exactly what he means. It's none of his business. Especially if I say Ashkenazi girl marries into a Sephardi or Rabbi Yosef family. You know, Rabbi Yosef is very machmir. He's very machmir. He calls Nikas Moshe. Says I don't know what you're talking about. But basically, that's everybody said. Ashkenazi girl married into a Sephardi family, and she wants to wear a wig. It's none of his business. It's not that's what he thinks to say. I have a difficulty with that, but that's what he says. That's the bottom line. Then he goes the other way. Another story. Only happy couples came to Rav Moshe Feinstein. The woman comes and says, I want to shave off my hair. All of it. Because we know that's the minig of the Chassidim. Why do the Chassidim shave off all the hair? Right? Because they don't want to pay for a wig. Right? Because the cheapest one is 10,000 shekels. No, there's reasons for it. There's good reasons for it. It's not. The main reason is because of the mikveh. It's very hard when you go into the mikveh. You have to make sure all the hair is submerged, and hence, even if a little hair sticks out, you remain impure. Of course, that's why when you go to mikveh, they have a mikveh lady to make sure that all her hair is immersed. But it's not such a. It's been around a long time. Therefore, if you shave all your hair, you don't got to worry about if all your hair is in the mikveh or not, because they ain't there. It's also the issue of if you're like the Zoyar and the Chasam Sofer, which. Chasam Sofer is a big. It's like a big. He doesn't need my approbation. So you don't want any hair to be shown at all. Maybe by accident something be shown. Kimchis, the schus of Kimchis, her the wall of her house never saw anything. No, how's that going to be? You shave off all your hair, then you got no worry about it. So it's not so crazy to shave off all your hair. So what's what happened? The lady comes, okay. They come to share brachas, and all of a sudden, the guy says, "Oh, this is wonderful. So I had to marry." She takes out a lawnmower. She wants to shave off her hair. What? What is going on? What are you doing? What do you mean I'm shaving my hair? Anyway, so they come to her Moshe. So l'chayr over here, you'll say the same thing. None of your business. She wants to shave her hair. She wants to shave her hair. So here, Rav Moshe emphatically, here he sides with the husband. In the other case, he sided with the wife. He said, no. If you come to your husband's house, there's a big chiyuv to make sure that your husband likes the way you look. That's a big chiyuv on the woman to make sure the husband likes the way you look. In a sense, whatever's doable. And therefore, he brings down the Gemara Nazir. What does the Gemara Nazir say? You could undo a Naziris. Now, if you look at the Gemara, they're talking about she already brought some of the Kabbanas. It's even, she brought some of the Kabbanas. And he wants to basically retroactively make Kabbanas possible. That's what's going on in that Gemara there. So basically, it says over there, the husband can say, I don't like the way she looks. She's bald. That's what we're talking about. Mama's talking about bald, because that's what happens. And by another, you got to shave. By another, you got to shave her hair. And he says, so what do you see from there? You see from there that the husband, it's normal for the husband to be makbar about such a thing. Academically, he can undo a vow. So therefore, Moshe paskins that he is allowed to stop her from shaving off all her hair. And he says we have a perfect raya. What does it say by fast tire? What do you do with your fast tire? Remember the lady that's captured, a Gentile lady that's captured. So you don't want the Jewish man to marry her. We want to try to avert that. So what do we do? We shave her hair. We see that it's not such a nice thing to be bald. So this is the way. So again, Moshe Paskins, sometimes like the woman, sometimes like the man. When the woman wants to wear a wig, the man can't stop her. When the man wants her to shave, the man can't stop. The man can't stop her. Good. Rabbi said we're not going to have time because it's already late, but I just want to mention the famous Aruch HaShulchan. A lot of people mistakenly say, yeah, but the Aruch HaShulchan say in our days we're allowed to go around without your hair covered. They heard something like an Aruch HaShulchan about that. That yeah, in our days, since no one covers their hair anyway, 80% of the from Jews are not from. So you know what? It's okay. It's no big deal anymore. There's such an Aruch HaShulchan floating around out there. But the truth is, if you open up the Aruch HaShulchan, he actually never said such a thing. The Aruch HaShulchan is talking specifically about the halacha. You're not allowed to say Kriya Shema in front of an erva, right? We all know that. Why? Because it means here. So if you have a woman who's sitting in front of you, and she's unclad, a tefach in a place, obviously that's supposed to be clad, you can't say Kriya Shema because Pashas brings to here. So in here, the Aruch HaShulchan says, it's true in the Zman, and the Gemara says openly, black and white, you cannot say Kriya Shema in front of revealed hair. So here the Aruch HaShulchan, after 4 or 5 lines, he says, it's a terrible thing that people don't cover the hair, it's you're over on an assay, Avasenu Harabim. He just says, but since everyone doesn't uncover the hair, for the din of Kriya Shema, it won't cause any more hair. He doesn't chas v'shalom say that you don't have to cover your hair. People mistakenly, you don't got to cover your hair. That's not what he said. He never said that. It's an open mitzvah that says you got to cover your hair. He just said that klape the din that you're not allowed to say Kriya Shema in front of an erva, the hair won't be called the erva anymore. It won't basically arouse you because everyone's walking around that way, right? With all this, the Mishnah Berurah says Aruch HaShulchan is wrong. He passed not Aruch HaShulchan. He says even in our days you cannot say Kriya Shema in front of revealed hair, right? But this is a mistake of the Aruch HaShulchan. Now we have to understand this Aruch HaShulchan. It's it's a little bit late. We don't have time to go through the whole thing. There's no way. Let's say you go to a place, a non from a city. Everyone's walking around sleeveless and you name it. Everything is showing. You know. So the Aruch HaShulchan going to say there too? No. Listen. I can say Kriya Shema. No. Clearly the Aruch HaShulchan would never say in that case you can say Kriya Shema. Because there are some things that definitively cause arouse you. Here is a very unique situation because here's the story. I'm about to say Kriya Shema is a beautiful girl, 19 years old, her hair's uncovered. No problem. An 85-year-old grandma, her hair's uncovered. Oh no. Who knows where you're going to go with that? The 85-year-old lady, because she's married, right? Because clearly you could say Kriya Shema in front of a psula, a pnuya, and her hair's uncovered. Clearly, right? We won't talk about looking. We're not getting involved with that. Maybe I have a different share about that. So already we see this hair thing is something very unique. It's so unique it's hard to explain. If I had time, I'd try to explain it, all the intricacies of it. But we see there's something here that's a little bit strange. So only here the Aruch HaShulchan says, since the whole thing is only based on that the Torah said to cover it, and it's supposed to be covered, and it's usually covered by Nashim Nesuas, only here he says, well, bottom line is in our days, no one covers their hair, so it's okay. But you would never say it on other parts of the body that are uncovered. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference where you live, and you live in, I don't care where you live, Las Vegas. It don't make no difference where you live. You cannot say it in front of... Okay, Rabbi, so I think we covered most of the grounds. Just one last thing. So, we spoke about wigs. Forget the wigs right now. How many coverings do you have to wear?
2.
This leads to we started off at the beginning, is Das Moshe V'Shor, 1 is enough. But the Gemara brings down Das Yehudis says kolsa is not enough. I mean, that's Moshe, kolsa is enough.
What's kolsa?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. It's the Rambam brings down you have to wear 2 coverings. If you see the Hasidic women, they wear 2 coverings. You say, oh, they're fanatic. The Shulchan Aruch, if you read the Shulchan Aruch straight up, it says 2 coverings. That's what it says. It's just a huge machlokes. What exactly is it talking about? The Bach and someone learn no. Even the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch that said you need 2 coverings was talking about when the first covering was like a net. It was very thin, diaphanous. It was very see-through maybe. But if it's a full covering, you're good to go. But that's not the simple reading. The simple reading is that you need 2 coverings. So when you see the Hasidic women walking around with 2 coverings, they're not coming from nowhere. Now, we got the last thing is the new sheitlach. Anyone who's got 25,000 shekel to put down to make their wife happy, you get the top lace sheitlach. I think it's called top lace. Are the top lace straight laced? Is it good? Right? There are many issues here. One issue is modesty, sensitivities. We could talk about that even regular wigs, the lengths. We're not going there. I ain't going there about. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not even saying it's not deraisa. I'm not going there. It's novel b'shut Torah. I'm not going there. But here's the story. You get these. I was on Shabbos meal. My wife, it's a top lace, the new thing, and they're all talking. You cannot tell the difference. Impossible. It looks exactly like your hair. And my daughter told me that. My wife said that. Is there going to be a problem? So, I heard a shir once. I said like this. There's something called Das Moshe and Das Yehudis. What does Das Moshe mean? Das Moshe means, or din deraisa. What does the word Das Yehudis mean? You look like a Jew. Das Yehudis. He said like this. In the time of the Rambam, times of the Gemara, all the goyim used to cover their hair. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Nun Ches. It talks about how do you know when a Gentile woman is married when she covers her hair. In the time of the Gemara, everyone covers their hair. So what's Das Yehudis? What would the Rambam hold? 2. If the goyim do 1, so what are you doing better? 2. So in our days where the goyim don't cover their hair, 1 is enough. Meaning even the Rambam or the Shulchan Aruch would say you need 2, and nowadays 1 would be enough. Because this is Moshe Sternbach. But he's based on Moshe Chag. It's based on earlier sources. So even the Rambam hold today is 1 enough. But if you go ahead and you wear something that looks exactly like your hair, you can't tell. No one can tell. So even though Moshe says there's no maritz ayin like the shaver, but even when Moshe, when he writes about no maritz ayin, he says people could tell. The women know. If you look at the tshuva of Moshe, if you look at tshuva of Moshe, he says people know. People know. But people know. But if your mom is going to wear something that no one knows, you can't see. You can't. Trust me, you can't see. So then we could say, maybe it is maritz ayin, maybe it is even das Yehudis, because how did I different? The rabbi said a story. A guy, the boy, his mother just came with a top laced. A mother just came with a top laced wig, lace top, whatever it's called, lace top wig. Next day, her son comes home with your kippah. He says, "Well, no." He takes off. The kippah looks just like her hair, just like his hair. He says, "Where'd you get that?" "I went to your sheitelbacher." So the mother starts screaming, "That's no good." He says, "Why not? What's the difference between what you have and I have?" Look. Anyway, can someone say definitively it's usher? I don't believe so. Could someone say definitively it's mutter? I don't think so either. Definitively usher. Bottom line is, it's not your real hair. Bottom line, it's not your real hair. And maybe somehow or other, it doesn't arouse anyone. Don't ask me how. Maybe, because it's not your real hair. So it's not like the goyim, because the goyim aren't wearing this. And there's no maritz ayin, because the Gemara don't say maritz ayin. You can't start making your own maritz ayins up. The Moshe is very into that. You don't start making maritz ayin. Can someone definitively say it's usher? I don't believe so. Can someone definitively say it's even without the sensitivities and all that? That's for sure not. About that, we could for sure talk. But can Some say definitively it's mutter. I don't think I can say definitively mutter either. It's a very, very gray area. So, and it costs 25,000 shekel. So you put everything together. We could definitely do without it. Okay, boys, we'll stop here for now.